What an absolute joy it is to be back on Cricbuzz Chatter. Adam Collins with Harsha Bhogle. It's the first day of the Border Gavaskar series, a day-night test match, the pink ball in Adelaide. And it was a day for the traditionalist Harsha. It was an attritional day, as they say in the cliche. India hung in there. Then they put the foot down. Then the collapse. Then they stabilised things before the close of play. But what an absorbing day's play it was.
Well, two things to start off with. It seems just yesterday, Adam, that you and me, we're trying to push those drunks away at the Adelaide Oval to do Cricbuzz Chatter. Remember that? And we were doing that mic drop. Since then, you've become Papa Collins. So look how much it's changed. But yes, I agree with you. Put the foot on. I think if they put the foot on the pedal a little bit, there wouldn't have been a run out that changed the course of the game. But yes, attritional cricket. It was proper test match cricket, wasn't it? I mean, just the other day we were seeing 400 runs in Sydney, and now in the same time we were seeing 50 runs. But just two different forms of the game, equally enthralling.
We have to talk about the run out first and foremost, Harsha. Captain, vice captain, fantastic relationship, been playing together for so long, and yet somehow it was a barbecue, as we call it in Australia. Rahane, yes, no, maybe, sorry.
Yes and no is always followed by sorry, isn't it? I mean, the expression said it all. There's Virat, who's fought so hard to get to 74, and he tosses his head back. And you could see from Ajinkya's, Rahane's expression, he's gone, I didn't actually do that. If it was not a cricket match, it would be a nightmare. I'd wake up and say, thank God I didn't actually do that. But unfortunately, he had. And I guess you get these horror moments in your lives once, because, I mean, he's sold Kohli down, right? I mean, I remember my good friend Navjot Sidhu used to call it, he's thrown a drowning man both ends of the rope. So, and Kohli did right, actually. He trusted his partner, didn't look at the ball, charged down. It just happens. And I don't know if Rahane carried that guilt in to the next couple of overs, and I don't know if that was what produced the run out. But if I am Ajinkya Rahane's elder brother or his uncle, I'm telling him, forget that as quickly as possible and get back into the game. You're a nice guy. You made a mistake. That's all right. Come back into the game.
Yeah, the way Rahane put his hand up and apologised, it spoke volumes, didn't it? He knew that he'd committed that crime, if you like, and getting out 4 balls into the second new ball. We know with Mitchell Starc, he only bowled 16 out of the first 80. They held him back intentionally to make sure that he could have one big stanza, one big spurt at India with the second new ball, and it paid immediate dividends. So Rahane, in the space of quarter of an hour, runs out Kohli, gets out himself and burns the review all in the same process.
I know, and I think India were actually a bit lucky. I'm just looking down the app at the fall of wickets for 206 for 6 to 233. They've got those 27 runs, but who's to say? And I mean, the fun thing about cricket is what if, isn't it? What if India ended the day 240 for 4 and Virat Kohli inching towards 100, maybe 90, 95, not out, maybe just got there? Would have been a completely different story. Now, you are what, 200 and you're 233 for 6, but the ball's only 9 overs old, and you're exposed. One more wicket, and you're looking at a slogging Umesh Yadav and a slogging Mohammad Shami.
Yeah, I guess that's the reason why it was such an inflection point on the day. If you press fast forward, if those two are there, when the second new ball arrives, if Kohli's established as he was, then maybe they get to the close of play, 3 or 4 down, as you're saying. But it was the hard yakka they did, as we would say, in the middle of the day, 2 for 41 or 41 for 2, depending on where you went to school, at the lunch break, thanks to some really tight, accurate bowling from Cummins and Hazelwood after the initial incision from Mitchell Starc. We haven't mentioned that yet. Second ball of the day, skittling, sure. But they got back into it. And unfortunately for India, after doing the hard work, they end the day in not a precarious position, all told, but, I mean, what could have been?
True. Now, for an Aussie who lives in England these days, you're throwing a lot of Aussisms at me. You've thrown me a Barbie. You've thrown me a hard yakka. But both are spot on. I thought actually at one point 0 for 1, then Mayank Agarwal 40 for 2, Pujara hanging in there, runs not coming, 40 for 2 at lunch. I would have taken 233 for 6 at that point, to be honest. But from 188 for 3, 233 for 6 is a come down. So I thought they bowled really well up front with the new ball. To me, the most fascinating spell of the day, in spite of what Starc did, actually came from Nathan Lyon on that first day pitch, getting a man caught at backward short leg, which, as we very often say in India, is a 4th day wicket kind of pitch, where you're getting the ball to go there. I was fascinated by the amount of turn he was getting, the drift he was getting. He bowled beautifully, I thought.
Yeah, from the get-go, wasn't it? That drift he was getting away from the right-hander. The bounce, it's always line and bounce, isn't it? Especially at
Yeah.
Adelaide Oval, a ground he knows well. He used to work on the ground staff as a curator there many, many years ago now, but could have had Kohli around the corner as well on 16 if only Tim Payne went upstairs. In the end, I suppose they'd probably take Kohli getting out in the 70s, given his reputation for heavy scoring at Adelaide, 3 Test centuries there in the past. But Nathan Lyon, we saw him bowl there 2 years ago, Harsha, and bowl the house down. And the idea that he's already in the book and already in his groove on day one, that's a very, very good sign for the experienced spinner.
It is. And therefore, I'm now curious to see if Ashwin starts to bowl that line rather than this. Indian spinners tend to bowl this, whereas Ashwin is now starting to bowl that as well. So I'm very curious to see how he goes. But the amount of turn on day one was excellent. I mean, there's that old saying which Glenn McGrath brought up in our studio about how Shane Warne always says if they've seen the spin. And there was a bit of grass, so there's definitely a bit of turn. I think India have just got to find a way to inch to 300 or maybe blaze to 300 somehow, and this game could be a little more open. At the moment, how do you call it? I think Australia ahead, but not by a huge amount.
Yeah, it certainly has the feeling of an honours even day. And I'm super excited about the youngster Cam Green. I'm sure we're going to talk about him a lot during the series. But for now, we're going to go for the first time in this series into the hotspot.
Okay.
Cheteshwar Pujara, Harsha Bhogle. We talked about him every single night of this corresponding series 2 days ago because he was batting every single day. He faced over 1,200 deliveries in that series. And, well, he banked 160 today before getting out. We've already briefly touched on his dismissal. But despite having not played a lot of cricket in 2020 due to COVID, he looks like he's already in that groove. He loves batting in Australia.
He just loves batting. The question, though, given that it's a hotspot question, is does he need to get a move on a little early? Is a striker of 20 good enough, or do you just say leave Pujara alone? If he bats 160 balls, he's got 40. I think if he had batted 200 balls, he'd have been on 70 because that strike rate just picks up. And what does it do to the other people? So I guess with Pujara, you're never too far away from a discussion on strike rates. Actually, he loves batting. He'll just keep on. I mean, you got to a stage at one point at 180 for 3, the bowlers were starting to look a little tired, and that was largely the effort of Pujara, who just makes them come back for a second spell, come back for a third spell, come back for a fourth spell. So you just got to say, look, that's how he is. He'll eat up deliveries. He'll keep you on the ground long enough.
Especially when he had to be out there in the first over as well. We mentioned that fantastic piece of bowling from Stark early to find the gap between bat and pad from Shaw, which, I mean, a young man, he would have played here 2 years ago if not for that ankle injury. Not to make much of a pass of a judgment after 2 deliveries, of course, how can you do that? But it does give Australia the mental edge over a young player. And historically, we've seen what that can do on home soil.
And with Stark swinging the ball back in, I mean, when Stark starts to swing the ball back in, he's just a completely different bowler. And there was a little inside edge, but there was enough of a welcoming gap there, as if to say, come on in. I've left it for you. Shaw is that kind of player. He goes boom, boom, boom. And I'm not a big fan of people saying, sorry, that's who I am, unless you're Pujara and you've made 6,000 runs. I'm not a big fan of people saying that's who I am. You've got to tighten up your game. We saw that with Mayank Agarwal. Tight, and then suddenly that one ball crept through. But if Stark is going to keep swinging that ball back in, then it has a big implication even for the rest of the series. I know we moved from pink to red, but that's got implications for the rest of the series.
Harsha, what will also have implications that Tim Payne's been given this great gift, this wonderful gift called Cameron Green. He's got a fourth seamer. And Green, we watched him in the tour games and thought, look, maybe he bowls about 130 kilometres an hour. Today, he was consistently above 140. Beautiful bounce and carry from his tall frame. Lovely shape as well. I mean, he's the perfect person to break it up for Payne and let him rotate those 3 big quicks as he would like.
Look at those numbers there, and that tells you the role that Cameron Green played. How many overs did Mitch Stark bowl? 19. Hazelwood 20. Cummins 19. That's all right. 4 spells of 5 overs each during the day. That's fine. That's workload good enough for them to handle. Why have they been able to do that? Because he's given you 9 overs. He got 1 out of Labuschagne, but he got 9 overs. Now, what's his job when he's giving you 9 overs? Don't go 9 overs, none for 45. He's got 9 overs for 15. So he's kept the pressure going. Got good shape, as you said. Beat the batsman a couple of times. He's a find. I mean, you guys in Australia are saying that he's the biggest thing after Ponting. if he's the biggest thing after Ponting, then you're talking of somebody very, very special. And if I was Cameron Green and someone told me the biggest thing after Ponting, with that burden would weigh me down about 6 inches, I'd only be 6'1".
And I'll tell you what, the way Australian fans were swooning around Cameron Green today, the fact that we barely even mentioned Josh Hazlewood, I suppose, speaks volumes at the influence of that young 21-year-old today. Harsha, it's time that we press fast forward. Harsha, I've been at almost every single day-night test match. I've been very fortunate to be around the world at different times of the year. I've been at all of them in Adelaide, apart from today. I'll be there tomorrow, of course. But this isn't a particularly bad situation for India to be in based on historical norms. Batting an entire day on day one is no mean feat. They're in the game of cricket. A lot of this is psychology. How can they come back tomorrow and make sure their lower order can do a job?
Well, first of all, they've got to tell their fast bowlers that the two of us who are there will take the score up to 265, 270. You don't have to score the runs for yourself to bowl at. The batsman will score the runs for the fast bowlers to come in. So 270, 280, if these two can go till there, Adam, then the fast bowlers swing their bat, get to 300. The fast bowlers have got something to bowl at. I know pink test dynamics are completely different, pink ball test dynamics. But if you remember, we were together at the end of the first day of that Adelaide test match 2018. India scraped their way through to 250. And that was good enough. It's just that this Australian batting side, we've got to see how much different it is from the others. And with Wade and Burns coming up to open the batting, if India can get Australia 10 for 2, I'm trying to say, I want to see the same Labuschagne and the same Smith batting with the same freedom from 10 for 2, chasing 280.
Harsha, I'm so excited. Tomorrow morning at 4 a.m, I'm let out of quarantine, straight to the airport, flying straight to Adelaide and straight to Adelaide Oval. And that's where I'll be tomorrow night when we're on Cricbuzz Chatter. Adam Collins, Harsha Bhogle, 2:33 for 6 on Us Even. It's very exciting to be back.